What's up, guys? Tiger Sheu of the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival. And we're here with one of the veterans of our festival. He has won Grand Jury Award Prize before for his film Cicada. Now he's back with another great film called Anjing. We're with Dean Yamada. Now, Dean, can you please tell us a little bit about Anjing?
So it's a feature film, takes place in Jakarta, Indonesia, and it's basically, Anjing means the dogs. And it's about the story of two dogs and what happens to the families who own them when tragedy strikes.
Oh, okay. Well, what kind of brought about this subject matter? Especially, I know in Asia, dog culture, pet culture is a little bit different. I know, like in Singapore, some dogs aren't allowed, like pit bulls. And I think, is Indonesia kind of close to that as well, in that kind of regard?
Somewhat. Indonesia is a mostly Muslim country, and so they do have a different perspective on dogs than we do in America. But with that said, yeah, there's an array of dogs in Indonesia and different ways in which they're treated as well. But the story came about because my wife and I have owned dogs, and we love dogs, and they're just moved by stories about dogs.
So I'm assuming you're not a cat person.
Cats are fine.
Well, this movie sounds very interesting. I mean, who doesn't love a dog? Man's best friend. And there's been so many, great movies recently, like Isle of Dogs, for instance, right? Maybe not Beverly Hills Chihuahua. That's a little different story. But for this one, I mean, as a dog lover, what were the challenges? Were you working with animals? Were you going overseas in Indonesia? How did that work?
So I am based here in LA. I teach film at a school called Biola University. And so as part of our curriculum, I took, with my wife, 8 students to Indonesia to shoot a feature film. So we spent the spring semester in pre-production, went to Indonesia for a month, and then brought the film home and shot, and then did post-production for another semester. So the process of preparing to go to Indonesia, bringing a class of 8 students, working in a foreign country in which we don't know the language, but are working with other professionals there. I mean, it's a pretty exhilarating process to be able to make films abroad.
I mean, that really seems like the greatest study abroad program. I tried to do one at my college. It ended up being a pyramid scheme. We won't talk about that. But so this movie, Anjing, what can people take away from it? I mean, especially at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival, there's so many different stories with Asian American culture, Asian culture in general. Now we have something I think very specific, dog culture, family separation in Indonesia. Again, what brought about this story?
Well, we're just inspired by stories about people and about dogs and about family dynamics. And so this particular story has 4 different elements or 4 different storylines to it. One of them happens to be of an upper middle class family in the suburbs who has a maid that's basically raised the 2 teenage daughters. So when the maid accidentally loses the dog, then it's a question of who's more important, the dog or the maid?
Oh, yeah.
So, and so there's other dynamics at play within that story.
Well, and I think that's so interesting because there's a lot of parallels nowadays. I mean, who doesn't love animals? But I think there always is kind of this stigma, especially in Asia, that people maybe treat dogs poorly. And I think a lot of us as Asians, we know that's not true. I mean, it might happen, but it's not something that's, common as people think. So I think it's such an interesting subject matter to have. Now, one thing with this film, you did Cicada earlier. Now you're coming back with another great film. Is there any pressure now that, you've won before, that this one you're trying to win again? Or is it just kind of coming back, having fun, putting out what you made?
It's never about winning. So winning with Cicada was obviously a gift. But no, we don't make films to try and win competitions. We make films to move people and to tell our story. So just being able to tell our story and to share it with people, like at this festival, I mean, we've won already.
Well, very cool. Well, I hate to use a platitude, but you really can't believe that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because we've got one of our veterans of our sport coming out with a new film. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.